Hey there, in this video we'll be covering how to use Agora's Web Video Call API and we'll be seeing how to integrate Agora's API with the HTML5 Canvas API. First things first, we'll be covering how to set up the API and different components involved in placing a successful video call. Following that up, we'll be seeing how to integrate the video call's output with Canvas API. This is our sample video chat application that we'll be building. Big video icon is your video, and small video icon is the remote stream. Go ahead to Agora.io and click Sign Up. Make an account here and log into the dashboard under Projects. Go to Projects list and spring up a new project. Once you have done that, you receive an app ID. We'll be using this to place a successful video call. Download the boilerplate from the link in the description and include the latest version of the SDK into the application. I'd like to cover a few basic concepts on placing a video call. Making a call using Agora can be broadly broken down into 3 steps. 1. Join a channel. 2. Publish your local stream to the channel. 3. Subscribing to remote streams. To join a channel, we need to create a client, initialize the client with the app ID, and use a client to join the channel. It's similar for publishing your stream. Create, initialize, and publish. And finally, subscribe to the remote feeds from other clients. Let's start coding the application. Go ahead and make a new directory. Let's call it Agora Demo. Now let's make the files required for the project. I'm going to use the terminal to do that. You can also use the GUI too. Let's create the index.html. Let's make a new directory for styles and scripts. So once this is done, this should be the structure of your project. So all we have to do is open the project in the code editor and start coding. So once you set up the application structure, go ahead and copy the Agora RTC SDK which you have downloaded into the scripts folder. We'll be using this Javascript file to link Agora's SDK with our application. Let's start with index.html. Let's create the HTML structure. Let's call the application video call demo. Now we are creating a new container. This is where your video will be displayed. Now let's create a container so that remote feeds could be displayed. Now let's go ahead and create a container for future processing on the video feed. Let's import Agora's SDK and the scripts that we are going to write. Let's jump ahead to scripts. The first function we will be implementing is for error handling. We'll call it handle fail. It just logs the error. Now let's query the remote feeds and put it inside a JavaScript variable. Remote container is the ID of the container which we created back in index.html. The Canvas container will be used for future processing. So now let's write a function to add a video stream to the remote container. Now we are going to create a new div for every stream. And we need to assign the stream ID as the ID of the div. This is totally random and you can assign any other ID to the div as long as it's unique. Now we need to take care of the lateral inversion, as in it should handle the correction for the mirror image. which is usually what you expect instead of a natural image. Now let's add this newly created div element to the remote container which we have created over here. Now let's implement a function to remove the video stream whenever a user disconnects or leaves the channel. So first of all, we'll be calling this function whenever a remove event is triggered. We have the event object as the argument. We extract the stream from the event and we are going to stop the stream. After that, we need to physically remove the layout elements from the UI. So first we figure out which element to remove. We use the stream ID which we've assigned in this step to figure out the element which is getting removed, and then we remove it. Now let's see the new function to add a new canvas to use it for future processing. The video elements have a default ID of video followed by the stream ID. This is set by Agora's SDK. We extract the video element and then create a new canvas element. All that's left over is to render the video inside the canvas. So this is how we do it. So first we have the video element. We add an event listener for play, and as long as the video is playing, we write a function called loop, which will loop itself over at a given interval and constantly taking frames from the video feed and paints it or draws it into the canvas. In this example, we've taken the time interval to be 30 frames per second. This is the line of code which draws the video feed into the canvas. We have a few more adjustments over here because Agora dynamically adjusts video resolution according to latency and network speed. So as resolution changes, we have to change the size of the canvas. So this is our boilerplate here. What you're seeing is the index.html. We have set up a container called me. In the me container, you'll be seeing your own video feed, and in the remote container, you'll be seeing the video feeds of other people in the channel. In the canvas container, the remote feeds will be painted on a canvas. Let's move on to the script.js. Before that, I've included the local version of the SDK. You can go ahead and use the CDN version of the SDK or use the local version. I've included a bunch of helper functions so that we can get started and move on to the interesting parts. These functions are self-explanatory and description has been provided. So let's get started. Let's start by initializing an Agora client. Inside the create client method, we're going to pass in a bunch of parameters. First thing would be mode. We pass in the parameter called live, and the codec used for encoding and decoding your video. We can either use VP8 or H.264. We're going to go with H.264 since it has interop capability. Now we do client.init method with the app ID which we retrieved from the previous step. After that, we are passing a callback function to log in the console. Let's move on to the next method, client.join. Using this method, we join the client to the specific channel we pass in the parameter null so that we mention that we don't have a user ID on our own and that the server has to dynamically assign it. Let's give a channel name and let's provide a callback function. Inside the callback function, we can continue with the phase 2 or step 2 by creating the stream and publishing the stream. So right now I'm going to create a stream and pass on another bunch of parameters. We need to provide the stream ID. Here we are using the stream ID as the user ID since it is unique. Just for the purposes of the demo, we are not going for audio version of the app. We'll just have the video feed. Okay, now that we have set up the local stream, it is time that we actually initialize the stream and publish it. Let's move on and initialize the stream. Init function takes the callback. So here we're going to mention the DOM node where the local stream has to play. We already made a container called me in the boilerplate. So we are just referring to this ID over here, so that your video feed will be played over there. Once your video feed is playing in your own system, it is time that you publish your client to the server. Let's do some error handling. So once the feed has been published to server, the last part of the puzzle is to retrieve the feeds or the streams which are already there in the server. These are remote connections. We are going to use event listener model to retrieve the other connections. The first one would be to check if the other streams are added to the channel. If the other streams are added, we have to subscribe to those to get the video feed. So what happens when we actually subscribe to this stream? We have one more event listener to take care of that. What do we do once we have subscribed to a remote feed? We have to display it in our UI. This is why we use the function add video stream. We just pass on the stream is inside so that it displays the correct stream inside the DOM. Let's add the function so that we can display the video inside our UI. We are going to add canvas so that we can do the project detection as planned. Finally, we do the stream remove method to remove the video stream once the user has disconnected. As a final touch, we perform error handling and now our application is ready. Run the following commands to deploy the web app to an SSH server. Next, open up a web browser and navigate to the website produced in the terminal output. When running this web app for the first time, the browser will ask for camera/microphone access. Here, you should see your own video feed in the My Feed container, but nothing in the Remote Feed container. Why would that be? That's because there is nobody else in the channel except for you. So go ahead and duplicate the tab to emulate another user in the same channel. Now going back to the first tab, you can see the remote feed displayed from the other tab.